Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
What is up, Knight fans? Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, and Brian Murphy with you as the month of September rolls along. We've got a lot to talk about this weekend, and a weekend that is actually, Eric and Brian, I know you guys will appreciate this. The coming up on the this weekend is the 40th anniversary of the very first UCF football game. How about that?
Wow.
Yep.
That's I guess I should be like, oh my God, I just can't.
Well, no, it's.
Well, they'll be honored next week against UConn, if I'm not
mistaken.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, well, the first game was September 22nd, 1979, against St. Leo, and Don Jonas and the Knights won 21-0 that game. So,
wow.
But yeah, it's a historic week for UCF.
Where did they play that? Where did they play it?
They played it at St. Leo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which was apparently a cow pasture. We'll hear a lot of stories from that. I'm working on a couple things having to do with that. But in the meantime, the current edition of the UCF Knights football team is coming off of a huge win over Stanford, where they were in control the whole game. We'll recap that real quick. We'll preview the next game on the road against another Power Conference opponent in Pittsburgh, and we will take a look at the Olympic sports. Lots of news to pass along. A wild weekend for UCF Volleyball. Cal Jennings is still scoring goals like crazy for UCF men's soccer, UCF women's soccer. Their offense is off and running now, and we have also some cross-country news and a bunch of things to talk about here. So follow us on Twitter at UCF_Banneret and at Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. Follow us individually at Jeff_Sharon, Eric Lopez, Elo, and Spokes_Murphy. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about this Stanford game first, fellas. It was not a contest. UCF scored first, barely 3 minutes in. Got an interception, scored again less than a minute later, and it was pretty much over. The Knights went up 28, where they were up 28-7 in the first, 38-7 at halftime. Stanford got a couple scores in garbage time, including a disastrous fumble recovery, and that kind of made the game look closer than it was. The largest lead was 45-17 in the fourth quarter after a Jake Hescott catch. But the story of this game was Dillon Gabriel, who got the start and lit the world on fire in this game. 22 of 30, 347 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Rushed for 9 yards, but that's neither here nor there. And was sublime. He was dropping dimes all over the place. Brian Murphy, you have been touting since the beginning, since the performance on Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your starting quarterback. You were there in person. We watched the game on TV, but you were there in person. Was it as impressive in person, seeing what he was doing out there, as it was on television?
Yeah, and it was even more impressive when you watch it back, because when it's happening in real time, sometimes you miss some things, some small things. But when you watch the game back, I mean, granted, I don't have the all 22 film. I just have the TV shots. But you can see his footwork, his ability to evade pressure, but not scramble, keep his eyes downfield. That we've talked about his sense of calm and composure. he's got it. And, I don't think I was out on a limb saying that he was the guy, but I think once they went up 21-7, he hit, I believe it was Gabe Davis, I think, scored that third touchdown. Yeah. And I said, that's it. That's it. He should be the starting quarterback. It was like 9 minutes to go in the first quarter. I was like, he's got to be the guy. There's no doubt. And then he didn't do anything else in that game to disprove it. I mean, he was outstanding. Certainly second half, they didn't score, they didn't do as much as they needed to, but really they didn't have a whole lot of chances. And I think, Josh Heupel was fine with how they didn't really do much in the second half because they were kind of playing back and Pitt had the ball a lot. So it was that first half. That first half was, like you said, Jeff, it was sublime. It was better. It was even better when you watch it on TV, watching it back. There is no doubt. And yet we can ask Jeff Levy, the quarterback's coach, today. We asked him, this is Wednesday, we asked him if Dillon Gabriel will be the starter, to which he said, we're still working through that.
I don't even know what the point is. I mean, what windows are they trying to dress here? I don't understand it, Marv.
Someone made a point on Twitter about, he's just a freshman. He's only 18 years old. So you don't want to just give him the job. You want to make him keep earning it. But God,
what does he have to do?
He's earned it.
And yeah,
he is so far and away better. Again, we talked about this last week. He is so far and away a better passer than we've seen from Brandon Wimbush and 2 seasons with Darryl Mack. It's not even close. His accuracy is incredible. I mean, I can't find the correct superlatives to describe the way he
might be a better deep ball thrower than Milton, even when Milton's healthy.
Might be. I mean, and the way the way he moves in the pocket, the way he sees the pressure, the way he reads off guys, going through his progressions. I think also what sticks out with me, he's got one of the highest yards per throw average in the college football, because this kid has the guts, the testicular fortitude, just chuck it up there, and knowing that he's got the accuracy, he'll put it on the money, and most times he does. Again, there's not a bad thing I can really say about Dillon Gabriel. Certainly out of that Stanford game, I can't. We had some gripes about the FAU game where it looked like he was a bit juiced up early on with some high deliveries and some throws that were kind of got away from him. But man, this Stanford game was on a whole different level.
Yeah, 45,000 people saw it. It was really a coming out party, and not just for Dillon Gabriel, but for UCF really in the national narrative. We have some sound that we wanted to share with you here. Here is Dillon Gabriel talking about his mechanics on just that, Brian, his deep ball.
I think it started from Monday. I feel like last week I wasn't in a good body position. Feet weren't right. That little fix showed today. I think fixing the little things will create bigger and better things.
That's Dillon Gabriel after the Stanford game. Eric Lopez, interesting how some narratives sort of changed a little bit. Kirk Herbstreit on his podcast on ESPN seems to have turned a bit of a corner on UCF. Feinbaum, heaven forbid, had nice things to say about UCF on ESPN. I'm with you. I don't believe it. In fact, this almost feels like a setup to me. I mean, is it?
What do you mean? Well, this is where everybody gets all upset and everything, right?
I know. I embrace my paranoid style.
They were complimentary, and rightfully so. UCF's one of the better teams in the country. I think that's proven. Not one word was said about, hey, they're one of the 4 best teams, which is really right, because we're going to turn on these guys. Now all of a sudden everybody likes Kurt Herbstreit, right? I mean, I've always liked Kurt Herbstreit, but people didn't like Kurt Herbstreit. Now they like Kurt Herbstreit. Now they're going to turn on him in 7 weeks when he doesn't have UCF in its top 4. So I don't get caught up in the whole complimentary stuff because it's a week-to-week thing as far as that's concerned. So I wouldn't get caught up. Let me just say about Dillon Gabriel. The impressive thing to me about him was he admitted that the FAU game, his mechanics were off. And he fixed that. Boy, did he fix that. Very good. It's
pretty encouraging to see him fix his mechanics in 1 week.
Right. The interesting question, and I was on with Mark Moses on earlier this week, who does a radio show up in the Vieira, Melbourne area, drive time show. And he brought up an interesting question. And I think the one question left about Dillon Gabriel is, what happens when he faces pressure, right? Because the thing, I mean, let's give a compliment to the offensive line, who gave Dillon Gabriel a ton of time to throw the football. So what happens if he gets pressure? How will he handle that? More, and I think that's really the only, maybe, I'm just going to say, I don't, maybe that's what the coaching staff is kind of guarding a little bit, right? Like, let's not proclaim him anything, because maybe he faces some let's see how he deals with adversity first, before we crown him, right? As the old saying goes. So I do wonder if that's part of the coaching thinking, Murph, that, maybe that's why they don't want to come out and say he's the starter, because what if he gets off to a slow start? Do they want to go to the bullpen? Do they want to give different looks, right? We saw Brandon Winbush for his one snap line up near the red zone. I don't think that was an accident. I think they do want to do some different things with different quarterbacks, especially in the red zone, don't you?
Yeah, no, I think you're going. It's not like Dillon's going to be an exclusive act for that quarterback. They're going to do some different things down by that goal line, and I think this works well. Dillon Gabriel is about 5'11", 185, whereas Brandon Winbush is around 6'3", 230. And you saw, them put Brandon in for a QB draw at around the 2-yard line. It didn't work, but I think you're going to see more of that. And I think you might see more of that of Darryl Mack, who's kind of the same size and stature, because you want a bigger body in that area. UCF doesn't really have a big running back. Their biggest running back has probably been Tavius Thompson, and he's about 6'1", 200 pounds. So you can have a bigger guy in there for the goal line yardage, like the Panthers use Cam Newton, or have used Cam Newton in the past, not this season, but have in the past.
We saw Florida do that. Florida did that with Tim Tebow. Got him a national title his freshman year, where Chris Leak was the thrower, but you bring in Tebow, they would bring him in on short yardage situations. I could definitely see that playing down here. And, according to Pat Narduzzi, you don't want your quarterbacks apparently to run one too many times, apparently.
That was right up on the line. But hey, and that brings me to another question. Like, what do you do with Darryl Mack now at this point? I mean,
well, he's not 100%. I don't think he's healthy yet, right, Murph?
He was cleared. He was cleared to practice, right?
I mean, no, he was cleared to play. He's been cleared to play. Is he in game shape? Is something that we can banter about.
Thing entirely, but right?
The fact is, he is physically cleared to play. They said he's been ramping up activities since about the second week of camp. So really, he's been getting better and better for the last few weeks. It still doesn't replicate real time game snaps. What do you do if you're Brandon Winbush and Darryl Mack? You stay ready. Right? It's the next man up business.
Yeah.
So you stay ready. Try to work on your game. Work on your game. Make the best of the reps you get in practice. Get in the film room and make sure that if Dillon goes down, you're the next man up.
Can we talk about the defense for a little bit too? Because they made KJ Costello look bad, and KJ Costello is a good football player. He was 21 of 44 for 199, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But he was confused all day. Murph, what were they doing to him?
I think in this game that the defensive front did a lot of stunting, a lot of twisting, basically taking their defensive ends, defensive tackles, that front four, and crossing them over, sort of sending their tackles out wide, bringing their ends inside, because Stanford was missing both of their starting offensive tackles, so they tried to do that to confuse their line. It did, especially early on. If you watch that game, Randy Charlton was everywhere in the first quarter.
He was.
Was completely unblockable. And, Shane Burnham, the defensive line coach, pointed this out a couple days ago. They hit him early. They hit him on the pick. They hit him on the first series of the game. And it sort of got into Costello's head to where he knew that he needed to be quicker with his reads, quicker with his throws, and that sort of rushed everything he did from that point forward.
Yeah, I mean, that was really a master class put on by Randy Shannon in the front four, and it was really something to watch. A couple other statistics I wanted to get out there for everybody. Greg McCrae, another game where he averages almost 10 yards a carry, 11 carries, 109 yards, 1 touchdown. Of course, most of that was on one play. It was a 73-yard rush. Adrian Killens had 8 carries for 44 yards to go with 4 catches for 28. Boy, did Gabe Davis have himself a day against Stanford and Adebo, who we'd said, that was the big matchup, and a potential NFL guy in Gabriel, at least coming in the national picture against a definite NFL grade in Adebo, and he owned him the whole day.
He dog-walked him. He absolutely dog-walked him. Look,
wow.
I talked about this last week. I wanted that matchup injected into my veins because I was so looking forward to it. And as a UCF fan and as a Gabe Davis fan, you couldn't have asked for anything better. I mean, I've written about it on this site, on Twitter, for other publications. Gabe Davis won almost every single aspect of that matchup against a All-American, Nagurski and Thorpe Award nominee who's going to be possibly a first-round pick in this draft for next year's NFL. He studied him. He studied Adebo hard. He learned what his weaknesses are. He exploited them over and over again. And give credit to also Dillon Gabriel for putting some balls on the money deep down the field again.
Yeah. I mean, and you want to see what the masterclass looks like in that? Take a look at Gabriel Davis's touchdown catch where he pulls that double move on Adebo. That was just flat disgusting.
And the dude, and we can't see it in the TV shot too. But the 41-yard catch that he had called back because his left foot was a little too big and stepped out of bounds.
Burned him on that one too.
That was also a double move. That was another double move that he got him on before the touchdown. There was a 20-yard crosser, a 20-yard in route on 3rd and 15, where Adebo is right with him. But Gabe, first of all, the ball was put in a perfect spot for Gabe Davis. But Gabe is just strong. He's just way strong. And he's able to make that catch with Adebo all over him. There were a couple of throws that Gabriel missed that could have been a second touchdown for Gabe Davis. Adebo had not given up a touchdown since week 9 of last season, and he gave up 1 and probably should try to get up 2 to Gabe Davis in this game.
Yeah. I mean, it was really...
He made himself some money. He made some money, right?
Because people are watching this game, scouts are watching this game, they know about Gabe Davis, but you're watching this game for Adebo, and then you see him get roasted. As Mark Jones said on the ESPN broadcast, Gabe Davis is working Paulson and Adebo like a part-time job. And it was true. He was totally working him. And I think when you look at the tape, you go, wow, we got something else here. We got a 6'3", 210-pound wideout who is double moving and burning this first-round corner. We got to look at this guy.
Well, and some UCF fans won't like to hear this, but that pretty much he's going to probably be gone after this year, right?
If he stays healthy, look.
Yeah.
After Matt Leinart came back, I'm not going to assume anything, but yeah, I mean it would. I don't know about the whole wide receiver class for this year's draft. We're way too far away from this, but I would imagine that if he stays healthy,
here's the thing: Dane Brugler, who's one of the better NFL guys evaluating talent as far as coming out of college, compared Gabe Davis to Corey Davis, who was the kid that got drafted by the Titans. I think it was the fifth pick overall out of Western Michigan.
Yeah, fifth.
He said he reminded him a lot about Corey Davis, and Corey Davis kind of was just in Western Michigan, right? He just kind of blew up, right? It just kind of blew up as that year went on, and he caught fire, and that could be the case here with Gabe. I'll give you this over under, right? So Traquan Smith was drafted in the 3rd round. Over under 3 rounds. I'm going to make the over under 3 rounds where Gabe Davis goes. I kind of think I'm going to go under, right? I think he's got a shot to be a 2nd round pick at worst, and if he has a good combine, could maybe be a 1st round pick.
Yeah, I think he has a shot. Again, it's just too early for me to really delve into this, and to say that he could be a 3rd rounder, then I don't want to push on it. And I would say people who follow the NFL who listen to us comparing Gabe Davis to Corey Davis. Corey Davis has had a bad pro career so far because Marcus Mariota looks scared. But Corey Davis is a really, really good player. And for that, I did not know about that comparison. That's a really good comparison because Corey Davis, like Gabe, is a really stoutly built, tall, but strong hands guy who can run the route tree. He's got some deep ball skills, but really tough over the middle too. So I get that comparison a lot. Not that he'll be fifth overall, but I mean, again, we'll see what happens comes in March and April. But the point being is that if Gabe stays healthy, you would assume that yes, he needs to go, because this season he has shown that he doesn't belong on this level.
Yeah. Other notes from the box score: Trey Nixon had an excellent game. 5 catches, 88 yards, and a score.
Probably his best game of the night.
Yeah, I would say so, too. Marlon Williams caught the first touchdown, 3 for 73, and a score. And Jake Hescott got on the board, too.
Marlon Williams outjumped Debo for a deep ball down the sideline. I mean, Debo's getting beaten by multiple guys in this
I don't
game.
think Debo made money on Saturday. He might have lost
some money after that. So, but UCF racks up almost 600 yards of total offense against 545 total on 74 plays, and gets the victory over Stanford. Stanford's, by the way, first trip to the Sunshine State in the regular season. They're probably never going to come back after something like that. But
they got a lot of issues. They've got a ton of issues on that football team. I was at their press conference afterwards. They've got injury issues. I mean, they're playing more freshmen than they planned on. Their offensive line is broken.
Mm-hmm.
Costello says they have no identity in the offense.
It's a mess. They're just, it's Highway 88 for them this year, and that happens. And it's, and it's too bad. It's too bad. And David Shaw, it's a credit to David Shaw, actually, that they seem to be at least maintaining that discipline. It's just, he knows this is going to be a long haul for them. Here's a line from David Shaw that you were able to get for us, Elo, on the whole, Power 5, Group of 5 thing.
We're years past that, and we've seen all these upsets that have happened in college football that are quote-unquote upsets. If you've got talent, you've got ability, you can play with anybody.
That's David Shaw talking about, the real difference between, that there is no difference between these teams, at least in his eyes. And, it's one thing if he says it, but, let's see if others believe it. Well, UCF will get another shot against a power conference team coming up this Saturday, the Pitt Panthers. UCF heading up there. Second meeting in as many years between these two squads. We're going to preview that in just a moment here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you here. blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF_Banneret on Twitter. We recapped UCF football's victory over Stanford. Now the Knights go on the road for a matchup with an ACC team, the Pittsburgh Panthers, on Saturday at 3:30. TV, it'll be on ABC on most of the East Coast, ESPN2 on most of the West Coast. It's that split week, just like the game up in Memphis last year, Eric, right? So it's going to be hard to gauge the TV audience. By the way, Eric, you had your TV ratings up from the Stanford game today, and turns out that the TV numbers weren't all that great for UCF. They had a lot of competition in the 3:30 slot, and I think a lot of people tuned out after the first 5 minutes.
That's right. That's just like a lot of students left at halftime, so that many television viewers left this game. Yeah, not a great rating. It was down about 33% from last year's Boise State-Oklahoma State game. It's the first UCF football game that they were involved in on ESPN or ABC. I'm not talking ESPN2 or any of the other ones. Just ESPN or ABC. It's the first UCF game they have not at least gotten 1 million viewers since the infamous Thanksgiving game against South Florida, which was disgraceful. So, no, not a great number. Obviously, lots of reasons for it. The game was obviously blowout early. The fact that the first quarter took about an hour, and I'm not even exaggerating that, is not a good thing. When it's a bad quarter and a long quarter when I'm sitting next to Brian and Brian's very concerned about getting coffee. That tells you how long.
Oh, man. 2 games now we have not had coffee. I am raising the red flag on this one.
Oh, my God. You guys.
So not good.
Because we all know everyone loves media people complaining about free food.
Well, so, yeah, not a great number. It's one of their lowest rated games they've had in that slot. And it's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see what they do moving forward. They got Pittsburgh on ABC. You mentioned the split regional coverage with Washington and BYU, so it's going to be a little harder to tell what the number is. But then they got UConn, which shocked me, for the 7 o'clock ESPN2 game. And I think one of the things that will be interesting that I'm in talking to people in the industry is can UCF carry a number as the showcase team instead of being a supporting cast, right? Like Alabama carries a number regardless of how the blowout is. Certain other programs do. So the question that I think people are curious about, and this could have an impact down the road 3-4 years from now if there is realignment, is UCF truly a TV draw nationally? And we don't know. I mean, honestly, we don't know yet. They've gotten good numbers when they've played marquee opponents. But can they draw numbers when they are the show, if you will, the lead act? Well, I think that remains to be seen.
Well, we might get a little bit of a data point. Like you said, it's going to be hard to tell because it's a split. Telecast this week. But nonetheless, UCF heads up to Pittsburgh for the third all-time meeting between these two. And I think that's what they're booking on here because UCF comes in 3-0, ranked 15th. Pitt unranked, they're 1-2. Their only win was a lackluster performance against Ohio. They're coming off a 17-10 loss to Penn State last week. Obviously, a little bit of history between these two squads from last year's game, because of the guys falling all over the place for Pitt to try and slow UCF down. Not saying anything untoward was happening, but it looked a little odd.
Hold on, I gotta get Powerade, guys. Sorry, I'm cramping up a little bit. I'm gonna
Yeah. The show is going a little too fast for Eric. So Eric, you got to get a massage out. Get the little roller out to work out that kink. Work out that Charlie horse for you. This game will be at Heinz Field, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Pitt. By the way, did you know Pitt actually had an on-campus football stadium and they demolished it?
Yes.
Yeah, to build the new arena, Peterson Event Center. So that tells you how much Pitt thinks about football, I guess, in the long run. Pat Narduzzi, the head coach.
Ain't walking through that door.
No, he is not. UCF, of course, won the matchup last year 45-14 in late September. Well, here we go. It's going to be it's an opportunity against a power conference team, but not one of the big, huge, marquee name power conference teams. But another chance on national television. Murph.
Jeffrey, you're trying to drag this out into something it's not.
Okay. Why is it not?
It's not. Just say it like it is.
Well, here's my angle. And this is where I'm going to tell you, Eric Lopez and Brian Murphy, why I'm a little scared this week.
Oh, God, here we go.
Okay. All right, I'm looking at the line. All right, I'm on OddsShark, and I'm looking at all the lines across and OddsShark can, aggregates lines from other places. So the line started at 10, all right, and it steadily bumped up. It peaked at 14 on Monday. All right, UCF by 14 points.
Sounds like a lot of smart people there. Yep.
Now it's at 12.
Yeah.
So what am I missing here? Why is the line climbing back down?
Where'd the FAU line close at?
I don't remember. I'll have to pull that up.
Close at 10.
Yeah, it kept going up. That's the thing.
Yeah,
right?
but it closed
Why
at
is this
10.
one coming back down?
Well, it doesn't matter.
First point is, let's see where it closes, because anybody that follows gambling knows the smart people vote either bet early or they bet at the end. They don't bet in the middle. So the reason why that number is dropping is because that's public money. So the public doesn't have a clue. They're like, hey, it's Pittsburgh. Hey, they're at home and they're this big of an underdog. Get out of here against a team in the American. What, Central Florida? Where is that from? Okay, I'm going to take Pittsburgh to cover 14. That's why the number dropped. It's just it doesn't mean anything. I wouldn't read anything to it. Okay. Just like the Stanford game. What was it? It was like 8.5 for most of the week, and then at the last minute, it jumped to like 10, right?
Yeah,
like 7.5 to open, and then it went 8.5, and then it kind of went 9 and 10 the last couple of days.
Right.
Yeah.
So we saw, and by the way, me and Murph, the only two people that predicted a blowout, rightfully so. Thank you. I get the exact margin, 18 correct. I think Murph got the point total right, or at least was closest to it.
I was close.
So we both.
I had 38-17, which I believe was the actual score of the game for a bit. So I was very happy about that.
Sure.
We both nailed that. We are unlike other people who before the season picked this game as a loss to Stanford. We won't mention who they are.
I will mention who that is. I am one of them. At the beginning of the season, I thought this game would be a tough one. Much to my delight, I was wrong. So
yes, they were. Yes, you were. So anyway, the point is, I wouldn't read too much into the numbers. Pitt's terrible. I watched Pitt. For multiple
Tell us
games.
how you really feel.
Pat Narduzzi should probably get fired sooner than later if I was a Pitt fan, but they may not care. They have no offense. They have a good line. Now, they had a good line last year, but it hasn't shown up yet this year. They weren't as fast. They had trouble with UCF speed last year and their athleticism. Well, guess what? UCF still presents the same problem. So I don't see any way that Pittsburgh stays in this football game. I really don't. I think this is it's one of the – I think Pitt used up all their emotion in the Penn State game. It helps that Penn State doesn't have a quarterback this year. I really do. I think Pitt used up all – I watched that game. They used up a lot of trick plays and emotion in that game. I think they're going to – if they get off to a bad start, I think it's going to be very similar to last year's game. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen anything that would indicate bad weather in Pittsburgh.
No, it's supposed to be great. It's supposed to be like 87 degrees with no humidity.
Oh, man.
Yep. The only way Pittsburgh has a shot in this game, there's two factors here, is A, does UCF read too much of their clippings, right? Oh, we're this awesome team. Kurt Herbstreit likes us. Everybody likes us. We can just show up.
The complacency thing is a concern.
That's up to them. The other thing is, can Pitt do what Stanford did in the second half, which is control the ball in the line of scrimmage, get some 7 to 8 minute drives, and shorten the game? I think the thing that frustrated David Shaw is I think he would have, if they would have copied the second half in the first half, it might have been a completely different game, but it didn't. But can Pitt can they do that? That's what they're going to try to do. Whether they can or can't, I think is the big question.
Yeah. Well, by the way, a little note on that: 67% of the money is on UCF minus 12. The over/under 61.5, and 57% of the money is on the under. What was the other thing I said? Oh, this is interesting. UCF is under in 9 of their last 13. By the way, so I thought that was pretty interesting. But
here's the Pitt totals this year offensively. They scored 14 points at home when they lost to Virginia, 30-14. They beat the powerhouse Bobcats of Frank Solage in Ohio at home, 20-10. And then they lost to Penn State 17-10.
So 14, 20, and 10.
That Penn State game did have a lot of rain in the first 25 minutes, Eric.
It did. No, it did. It did have a delay, a little weather there, But they're not an explosive offense. They have, Pickett's the quarterback. It's not anything great. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's only going to come down to, can Pitt be more physical than UCF at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, control the time of possession, and shorten the game? Because if they don't, if they're off the field quickly, it's going to be the same game as last year.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Pitt is actually outgaining its opponents on average, 380 to 303. But Pitt's only rushing for 87 yards a game.
That's the thing that hurts them. They were a better running team last year. They were really, especially.
And if you're going to keep UCF off the field, you've got to run the football, and they just haven't done it yet. And in games where they should be running the football against those kinds of opponents. Murph, what are you reading on Pitt from the UCF, from inside the clubhouse, if you will?
Well, I mean, they're going to say all the right things, right? Like, they're strong, physical.
We're going to go 1-0.
Yada, yada, yada. I will say, like, as I put out on Twitter, I mean, there's so many things in this game that lean UCF's way. And another one of them is how Pittsburgh's secondary plays, which I mentioned on Twitter. There's a video that I put up on Twitter today of talking to Trey Nixon about how Pittsburgh plays a lot of man-to-man press coverage. The cornerbacks want to press you at the line of scrimmage. The problem with that with UCF is that's the defense they face every day in practice because that's the defense they play as well. So that's not going to bother them. And I believe they have the athletes. I will say Pitt does have a couple of decent corners. But so did Stanford. They had a first rounder, and Gabe Davis made it look silly. So it doesn't, like, it's not that is not an advantage. The offensive line for Pittsburgh, you talked about the running game, how it's not gotten off the ground. That offensive line is just not creating a lot of push. Their left tackle is a redshirt sophomore who's having a really tough time around the edge. So I think Brendan Hayes and Rand Charlton again could have a lot of success. But I mean, there's so many things I could look at. Kenny Pickett, who was not good in this game last year, is really he's a game manager. He's kind of he plays like KJ Costello played against UCF last week. He wants to do a lot of short stuff. Watch out for the screen game. They like to throw the screens a lot.
Yep.
They like to
try and convert your third and mediums all the time.
Yeah. They like to say, and again, they like to do the long drives. They had a really long drive against Penn State. I think in the second quarter they had like an 18-play 9-minute drive. We talked about that with Stanford. Stanford wanted to do that too. Stanford had only 2 drives of at least 5 minutes, and by the time they got to that drive, it was already like 38-7. It didn't matter. The game was over. So Pickett's not very good. Their running game can't get off the ground. Pitt has scored a total of 44 points this year. UCF's lowest scoring total in any game is the 45. They just scored against Stanford.
Put it to this way: this is a worse Pitt team than last year, and you could argue that this is a way better UCF team than last year. So,
I will say, if there's one thing that Pitt could do, and Jeff, you talked about the pressure. It's interesting that this Pitt team is really good at rushing the passer up front. They do send a lot of guys. They send a lot of blitzes. But Jalen Twyman has been really outstanding as a defensive tackle, getting upfield, getting to the quarterback. And for a defensive line that's missing really probably certainly their best pass rusher, and I think it was Rashad Weaver. He tore his ACL before the season. He was their leader in sacks. He's out for the year. They're missing Keyshawn Camp, another defensive lineman who's a good pass rusher. And yet, even without them, they're still rushing the passer pretty well. That's one thing they do actually really good is getting to the quarterback. They got to the Penn State quarterback, but as Eric pointed out, that Penn State quarterback has no idea what he's doing right now. Dillon Gabriel for his 18-year-old self, again, we talked about the composure. It stands out. It is striking. It is sort of it takes you aback at how he just doesn't panic. And he certainly did not panic against Stanford, who like to blitz a lot as well. Yeah. So,
not to mention you got a good offensive line in front of him.
That offensive line is amazing. That offensive line right now is pass blocking. They've only allowed, I think, 1 or 2 sacks. I think it's 1. This team has not given up a turnover all year. That offensive line is got a 58% what they call opportunity rate, meaning that they're getting at least 4 yards a carry, I believe, on near 60% of their runs because of that offensive line. There's nothing in this game that scares me. Unless Dillon is uncharacteristically wild and throws a bunch of turnovers and they get frazzled. But, the
line of scrimmage, Murph, it goes back. That only happens if Pittsburgh has success in the line of scrimmage. If they can put pressure on Gabriel and force some errant throws, that's how they get the turnovers. On the other side of the ball. That's going to be the key.
We saw Gabriel deal with that pressure against Stanford, and he just does it so deftly. The way he steps out of pressure but keeps his eyes down the field. I just don't think that bothers him enough. Again, I do not expect this game to be close. And I would take UCF -12.
Yeah. Wow.
And by the way, let's give a shout out because all the UCF platforms out there, we always focus on, hey, Coach Heupel, what a great job he's doing. Hey, this and that player. I want to shout out Glenn Ellerby, offensive line coach.
Yeah.
Shane Burnham, defensive line coach. Phenomenal job these two guys have done here since they've arrived here. Not only what they have inherited, but even improving those two sides of the ball. They're obviously cleaning it up in the recruiting cell as well. But Glenn Ellerby and Shane Burnham has done a phenomenal job. And we always focus so much, and the national media focuses on, well, what about it? Is Josh Heupel going to leave or this or that? I think the thing you might be more concerned with is, are teams going to go after some of these position coaches to get jobs elsewhere? Because let's give Heupel, they've built a good staff here, and Ellerby has done a heck of a job with that offensive line, and Burnham with his defensive line, which, Murph, this, that was the biggest question they had going into the season.
Absolutely, and they're rotating. That defensive line is rotating, 8 guys on the line, but then also different linebackers as well. They're basically playing 13 to 15 guys up front all game. It's really amazing what they're doing. I have a stat here from Football Outsiders. There's a statistic called stuff rate. Basically, the percentage of carries in which running backs are stopped at or before the line of scrimmage. UCF's defensive line, or defense in total, has stopped running backs 36% of the time at or behind the line of scrimmage. That's 4th best in the nation.
That's amazing.
It's crazy that this defensive line is playing so well. Again, now we'll see what they do against better rushing attacks that they really haven't seen a whole lot of yet. But I mean, still, you've got to give it up. Both these they really are dominating on both sides of the line.
Well, if Pitt thinks that what you're saying, it sounds to me as if Pitt thinks they're going to run over or through UCF, they got another thing coming. So again, kickoff at 3:30, ABC locally here in Orlando.
Hold on, now Jeffrey, we forgot the most important part of the show again.
The game ball. Yeah,
the Fedora game ball for Brian Murphy.
By the way, did you see James Reed's little graphic for you? I thought that was amazing. The Fedora Golden Retriever.
I did not see this.
It's fantastic. A golden retriever wearing a fedora and carrying a football. I can't thank James enough for that stuff. He's like our unofficial graphics guy. I love it. James, thank you so much for that. Murph, game ball last week. I think Dillon Gabriel, right?
Yeah, it's Dillon Gabriel.
Yeah, that's
next. I think it is. I mean, he was the story of the game. There were so many things that were great about that game. So many positions that played well. I mean, really, the UCF DBs played well. They should have had probably 3 picks in that game. Richie Grant is still haunted by the pick that fell right into his stomach that he dropped.
Yeah.
Dillon Gabriel's their story. This was the coronation, as I wrote online on Sunday. It was his game, but I would like to say Gabe Davis because I was so geeked up for it and he worked out so well. But it's the other Gabe.
And Dillon Gabriel got himself not just co-offensive player of the week in the conference, but was also on the Walter Camp. Was Walter Camp player of the week? Is that right? So
yeah, he was the national offensive player of the week according to Walter Camp.
Yeah. So
but he may not start.
We never know, right? Yeah. They're
gonna now. Heupel says he's gonna play.
That "or" there is on the depth chart is a very powerful 2 letters, isn't it? There's a lot of weight on those 2 letters.
This coming from the team that listed Greg McCray as its 4th running back all of last season.
Yep, and look how that worked out. So this, by the way, is actually a very good. A couple of one really interesting matchup in the American takes place on Thursday night. Houston is at Tulane. Worth a watch, I think, certainly. Tulane is favored in this game, which I think at the beginning of the year we wouldn't have pegged that, but
you can make the argument the winner of this game probably will be the toughest game for UCF moving forward in their schedule as far as the regular season.
I think they're both going to be tough because God knows what you're going to get from Houston. I mean, obviously they're still trying to, I think, work out the kinks with Dana Holgerson, but Tulane, man, that team is
He's done a nice job over there.
Yeah, he has.
And they play a tricky offense. They run the football a lot. I mean, they're very disciplined. That'll be a very good football game. By the way, Jason Benetti will be calling the UCF game on ABC, the 3:30 game. The voice of the Chicago White Sox, Brian Murphy's a big-time fan of. I know.
And
really,
proud
that's what Murph's
Syracuse University graduate, by the way. Proud Syracuse University.
Oh boy.
So
you're looking forward to that. Like, what are you going to ask him if you run into him? What do you say?
I just want to thank him. He's a trailblazer. For those who know what that means.
And a damn good broadcaster too. I mean, he really is. He's a damn good broadcaster.
He can do anything. His voice, he did the home run derby. He was fantastic. But he can do football too. It's great. I mean, he did Bill Walton, and he was a fantastic man for Bill Walton.
Both on basketball and baseball games.
Listen, if you can handle Bill Walton, you can handle anything.
Well, he's got the dry humor too, which I like, and he's improved that White Sox broadcast by a mile with Hawk Harrelson no longer there. I think they were actually voted like a top 10 broadcast now, and awful announcing with Steve Stone. So that's all Benetti there. So he's cool. He's fun. He's going to be working with Rod Gilmore and Quinn Kessenich.
Quinn Kessenich, by the way, one other fun little line I wanted to pass along to you. Did you see the line in the UConn-Indiana game?
No, does it start with a 4?
Indiana is favored by 28 points over UConn. When was the last time Indiana was favored by 28 points over anyone? I would love to know.
It's nice. It's nice that UCF has a bye week on each side of their Cincinnati game on October 4th.
Hey, that's big. Although I'm not a fan of playing 2 FCS teams in the schedule, but they had no choice in this one.
Right. Come on now.
Cincinnati has the week off, by the way. So, all right. UCF against Pitt should be a good one on ABC, or if you're on the West Coast, most likely ESPN too. So UCF gets a chance to beat an ACC opponent, beat Pitt for the second time in as many years. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got lots to clean up in the Olympic sports. We got cross country. We've got men's and women's soccer. We got volleyball. We've got even got a little bit of golf.
We got baseball scheduling news. We got baseball up with.
We got all kinds of stuff. We even have a UCF baseball player earning an honor in the earning a Player of the Year award for the team's minor league system that he's with. So we'll talk about that and more when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this. Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, and Brian Murphy with you. It's our chance to catch you up on the Olympic sports now. We got a lot of news dropping here before we get to soccer and volleyball. But I just wanted to pass along this. This actually broke earlier. Men's golf won the Hartford Hawks Invitational yesterday in South Kent, Connecticut. They finished minus 24 overall in 3 rounds. Second straight win for the Knights at the Hartford Hawks Invitational. They also won in 2018. Top player for the Knights was Johnny Travail, who shot minus 7 for the tournament. So congrats to UCF on the victory. In all, UCF had 4 players under par for the tournament: Travail, Jordan Sarhadi, Clement Sharmison, and Tommy Sow. So that gives UCF a victory early on in the men's golf in the men's golf season. So congrats to the guys and head coach Bryce Waller on that. So all right, I want to lead off with men's soccer. The Knights jumped up to number 13 and in the latest United Soccer coaches poll up from 15. And UCF men's soccer, at least as of right now, I'm double checking on the result that they have, but they're up at 3-1-1 coming into the week. They knock off Virginia Commonwealth 2-0 on Friday, and we're playing Florida Gulf Coast today, and actually the game just went final 4-1. UCF beats FGCU. Cal Jennings.
That guy again.
Yeah, I know. 2 goals on 4 shots. Yet again, he's got 7 on the year. Yannick Edel gave up just 1 goal against to go with 6 saves. 2 more goals, by the way, for Gino Vivi, the midfielder. So there's your 4 goals for UCF right there. And the Knights advanced to 4-1-1 on the season with a road victory over the Eagles. So, Elo, this team seems to be picking up right where they left off. They got another game coming up Sunday against South Carolina. It's another big opponent game, but before conference play starts. But not only are they heating up, but now Cal Jennings is starting to heat up because he started a little slowly there, and now he's taking flight, right?
He's on fire. He's going to be on every 3 Knights 3 stars of the week every week at this rate.
I know. I feel bad for the other guys. Like we may have to just like retire Cal Jennings after 3. Okay, new rule. If you get 3 stars in 3 stars, you're done. All right. Cal Jennings.
I dropped him to a 1-star last week. So yeah, I'm trying to balance it out there. But he's amazing. Again. He's the best UCF athlete in the fall right now, and he might end up being the best UCF athlete. Period. He's just picked up where he left off last year, but he's got firepower around him. This team is starting to click offensively, Jeffrey.
Yeah,
it's going to be big. South Carolina on Sunday, huge showdown there to see there before conference starts. But man, they're just explosive offensively because Jennings is obviously the guy that everybody's going to focus on, but you get other guys chipping in with goals, too. That's what makes them tough. And they can score at any moment. I believe there's no deficit that they're very concerned about. And they are a legit – they're ranked 13th in the country. Obviously, we got to see what they do in conference play. And the conference looks very strong this year. SMU looks very strong as once again. I think Memphis beat a top 25 team the other day. This league might be even stronger than it's been since this league has started. But UCF is a team that's they got a taste of it last year. They got to host, they got to bye, and in the second round they were upset in that opening round. And I think that's motivating this group, the group that came back, to go even deeper. This team is dynamic, and let's just go ahead and start making the campaign for the Herman the Herman Trophy for Cal Jennings. Can we? Can we just push that like we did? Murph, were you around when Chris Duffy, we were pushing him for the Golden Spikes Award and like the campaign that year?
I was not around when you were actually pushing for the campaign, but I was well aware from afar of what Chris Duffy was doing that year.
Yeah.
All right, we need to do the same for Cal Jennings. That's all I'm saying right now. We need I don't know if we're gonna dedicate a page to him or what, but this guy is phenomenal and could go down. I mean, as one of, if not the greatest UCF men's soccer player, certainly in the last decade or so. Obviously, there's some great legends that have played in this program prior. In fact, there's going to be one that's going to be inducted into the Florida Sports Hall of Fame coming in November. But, man, Cal Jennings is just awesome to watch.
By the way, at 4 goals right now, 6 goals after tonight, that puts him tied for second in the country. The leaders are there are 6 guys with 7 goals, including Jordan Hall of UConn. Boy, can't wait for that matchup, huh? Cal Jennings and Jordan Hall of UConn. That should be a good one. UCF's next game is home against South Carolina Sunday the 22nd, and then they start conference play next Friday, the 27th. So,
by the way, SMU beat top 10 ranked Duke this week at Duke.
That's a big win for the conference.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. This league is just maybe as strong as it's been since its inception. It's getting stronger. It's definitely going to be a multiple bid league. You could have a team like SMU and UCF both be contenders to be national seeds and compete at the national level. And Memphis is off to a great start themselves as well. So this is going to be some league. I'm telling you. You've said it. I'm going to give you credit. You kind of jumped on this. The most exciting soccer in the state,
no doubt,
is right now UCF men's soccer. It's definitely better than the MLS version, I'll tell you that.
And by the way, if you want to see what great midfield play looks like, go see UCF men's soccer.
Come on,
because we've been seeing
with us to a match.
But seriously though, when you see the way their midfielders handle the ball and transition to offense to get the ball to Jennings and the other guys upfield. UCF really does have some of the best passing midfielders in the country. There's no question about that. So if you're a young midfielder and you want to see how to play midfield, come to a UCF game. I think that's what you want to see. So, speaking of soccer, women's soccer, they're starting to heat up a little bit too here, Eric. They're at 3-1-2, and coming off of 2 straight games at home where they just unleashed on their opponents. Last Thursday against Arizona State, UCF wins 4-1 against the Pac-12 team. Now, Arizona State's not expected to be very good in the Pac-12, but they were 5-2 coming in, and UCF got goals from 4 different players: Jessica Taylor, Zandy Surrey, Kristen Scott, and Ellie Marino. To take the victory in a game where UCF put 12 shots on Arizona in the second half, and scored all 3 of their goals after halftime, 3 of their 4 goals after halftime to get the victory. Then they faced Stetson at home, and Stetson's struggling, but UCF easily took care of them, peppering them with 23 shots. Final score there was 5-0. Scott scored another one, as did Talia Gabara and Mallory Olsen, but the story was Zandy Surrey again with a pair of PKs. In fact, UCF got 3 goals off of PKs. Scott's goal was off of a PK. But Zandy Surrey got herself some conference honors this week, and she earned one of our stars, Eric, for 3 goals in 2 games to get her team up to 3-1-2.
She was tremendous there. It was It was our Knights star, 3-star of the week. Also won other national awards, because our award is national as well. Let's not kid here. But yeah, no, she had a tremendous, and the balanced scoring was really this offense has been clicking on all cylinders. That's the big sight to see, and their defense has been really good. They've obviously played a great 3-match streak here, going back to the Florida win. To outscored their opponents. What is it, 11-1 in the last 3 matches? Now we'll see if that travels to the West Coast against Long Beach and certainly at Long Beach State and then UC Irvine. It'll be interesting how they handle the West Coast and how they kind of fit with that role deal on the road there and keep that momentum they've built here in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and this is going to be a tough stretch for UCF playing those 2 teams out west, because I wanted to do a little bit of research on that one as they got ready for it, but we like to see our teams, especially in soccer and volleyball, kind of head out west because we know how good the competition is. Long Beach State is actually receiving votes in the top 25. So that'll be a very good matchup, and then they got to make the trip out to Irvine to play them too. So UCF themselves are receiving some votes in the coaches poll. We'll see how that works out heading forward. So let's so UCF.
By the way, the national award I was referencing to was the top drawer soccer team. She made the all top drawer soccer team of the week, which is pretty good honor.
Yeah. So congrats to Zandy, and we'll see what UCF does when they go out west. That's right. They'll probably receive a few more votes if they can come out of there undefeated against Long Beach and Irvine. So we'll see how that works out. Come
on, give women's soccer some love too while you're at it. No?
And give volleyball some love as well. So UCF volleyball traveled to Illinois State, Normal, Illinois, outside Chicago for the Redbird Classic. This is a big weekend for UCF volleyball because they played 2 top 25 ranked teams: number 7 Marquette and number 14 Illinois, not to mention the hosts Illinois State, who by the way are picked the favorite in the Missouri Valley. And UCF wins 1 out of the 3 matches, but let me tell you something. These 2 losses were pretty heartbreaking. So the first one on Friday, UCF plays number 7 Marquette. They push Marquette to 27-29 in the first 2 sets. That's what Marquette had to do to beat them. So they were up 2-0. Then the Knights come back, force a 5th, and in the 5th set they had a 14-10 lead. UCF did, and then dropped 6 consecutive points to the Golden Eagles and lost the match in 5. I've never seen in volleyball a more heartbreaking way to lose, especially against a team that's top 10 in the country. So you and I were talking after that, Eric, and you're like, man, I don't know how they're going to recover after this. Well, guess what? The following morning, less than 24 hours later, actually about 18 hours later, they face number 14 Illinois, Big Ten team, another top 15 team. And UCF beats them in 4 and beat them like a drum, too, in that match. For UCF, McKenna Melville had 21 kills. Anne-Marie Watson added 12, and Christina Fisher had 9. And UCF just held a top 15 team to 185 hitting, including 026 in the first set. So UCF was able to take very good care of Illinois on that one. Now the schedule shifted because then they had to come back and play Illinois State later that day, the hosts in the nightcap, and again it goes to 5. Illinois State, like we said, very good team coming into this year, 6-1. Favored to win the MVC, and again UCF goes to 5 with them, and then Illinois State takes it in the 5th, 15-10. Illinois State had to win the 4th set 26-24 just to force the 5th set on their floor, and the two teams were basically about as even matched as you could be. The hitting percentages were 199 for UCF to 196 for Illinois State, but again, Melville with 17, Fisher with 12, Anne-Marie Watson with 11, but it just wasn't enough against Kaylee Martin, who had 21 kills for Illinois State. And UCF gets out of there with, as difficult a 1-2 record in that weekend as you could possibly ask for. That was tough to watch. I'm not gonna lie. That was a tough weekend, and yet they're still receiving votes in the AVCA coaches poll because. Like I said, they should have beaten Marquette. They beat Illinois, and they took Illinois State to 5 on their home floor. So that takes us to the last home tournament of the week before we start conference play, where UCF plays in the Sunshine Classic against FGCU Friday, Miami, and FAU Saturday. In another one, and the Miami match actually is probably going to be the best one in terms of their RPI. But that's 3 matches that are going to help UCF's RPI, Elo. And although, man, I'm sure they're going to look back at that Marquette match and be like, I can't believe
it's a what-if weekend, right? It's a what-if weekend. You're one swing away from 2-1. I think the question leaving there is not able to close out the Marquette match. He did have a 2-1 lead in that Illinois State match. Probably ran out a little bit out of gas. Is that a trend or just kind of a aberration thing? Do you learn from that it'll move forward and make them better for it? Or could that be a disturbing trend that we foreshadow that they didn't close a couple of those matches? That remains to be seen. I tend to think they'll be fine. They're not going to play outside of Cincinnati, in my opinion, the rest of the way. I don't think they're going to play teams as good as those teams they played this past weekend. So I think that's the beauty of playing those games and those matches. It should get you better, and I think they learn from it. And at least they salvaged that Illinois match. I'll tell you, that 11 a.m. time slot's been very good at UCF Volleyball. They've beaten USC in that time slot in Florida a couple times. Now they beat Illinois. So that's helped them. And now it's like learning from that, and then we'll see how they come out here at home this weekend against a Florida Gulf Coast team that knocked them out in the tournament in the opening round. So, that will be fascinating. We know that Florida Gulf Coast has a good program. I know you're pumping Miami up, but Florida Gulf Coast showed everybody that's going to be a tough match Friday night.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the things, and it's a credit to the coaching staff and the veteran players on the team, too, that they were able to turn it around after losing that Marquette match and that following morning beat a very good Illinois team. That shows me something, because it's one thing when you win all the time. It's another thing when you get knocked down, do you get back up? And I think to do that against Illinois, and then Illinois State was going to be a tough match anyway, no matter what. But they took care of business against Illinois. At least you salvage that one and move on from there. What else? We got some tennis news, Eric. The women's tennis rankings came out for the 2019-2020 season. 3 UCF Knights are ranked in singles play. Valeria Zaleva is 29th in the country. Ksenia Kuznetsova is 62nd. Rebecca Stolmar is 98th. And 2 doubles teams are ranked as well in the preseason. Zaleva and Kuznetsova together are number 7 in the country. And Stolmar and Marie Madel are number 31 in the country. So That's some good news for UCF women's tennis as they try to continue their quest to maybe get back to perhaps win a national championship this year after what they did last year. So they're certainly another national contender. And we have some college baseball news, Murph, we'll start with some actually MLB news that you broke earlier today about Thad Ward. Is that right?
I did. Okay, so one, I did not break this.
You broke it. You broke it to me, so I didn't know about it until you tweeted it.
I made you aware of this. I was lucky enough to follow Greg Lovelady, who tweeted about this, and then I saw it and took it for myself.
Oh, wait. No. So Greg Lovelady broke the news.
Right? No, the Boston Herald broke the news. The Red Sox broke the news, Jeffrey. So Thad Ward, some people might remember, was a pitcher at UCF for about 3 years. Really, his last year in 2018 was really sort of a dominant swingman as either a long reliever or starter. Down the stretch of that season, he was arguably their best pitcher. Really, really good. Worked himself into a top 10 round draft pick, selected by the Red Sox. So every year, as most teams do, the team picks their players of the year in their minor league systems across all levels. And the Red Sox today at least it was reported today, the Red Sox have chosen Thad Ward as their minor league pitcher of the year. He basically spent this year between, low A and high A, and across about 126 innings, he had an ERA of 2.14, and he struck out 157 guys in 126 innings. This is a guy who I did not know if he could really be a starter. Certainly, have a long pro career as a starter because he really wasn't that consistently here at UCF. But the Red Sox have turned him into a starter, and he is a dynamite pitcher right now. Their system is not very good, but he is, according to Baseball America, at the midseason point, he was their number 8 overall prospect. And I don't think they saw that coming from Thad Ward when they drafted him. I believe it was in the 6th round, maybe I think it was. But he's been outstanding and got lauded for it today.
Right,
and they need arms there. They need the Red Sox, Murph. For those that don't follow,
their farm just needs anything.
Well, their big league team needs arms. That's what I'm saying, though. Like he has a shot eventually to get up there because they don't have a lot of quality arms. They just signed Chris Sale to an expensive extension with his arm kind of being very questionable at best right now. David Price might not be there long. I mean, their bullpen has been a mess. He could be a part of the Red Sox future here.
Possibly. I mean, certainly he's worked himself into the situation where he could be. And again, he was drafted in the 5th round in 2018. And I don't think they saw this kind of results coming from him this quickly. And for a kid who, when he was growing up in the Florida area, he was actually a bat boy for the Red Sox during spring training year. So he was hanging out with like Manny and Ortiz and Jason Varitek and those kind of guys, and now he's pitching for the Red Sox and certainly doing quite well.
So
that's a good story. That's a good story. Now, Murph, we are 147 days. 147 days for opening day, college baseball, 2020.
Man, getting sweaty. Woo! Yo, not even that. Don't we have aren't we like a month and a half away from fall ball? No, we're less than like a fall ball.
I knew it.
Get some of that.
Well, here's how
some college action at UCF.
Here's how urgent. Well, here's how urgent UConn is to get to baseball season and out of the conference. They released their baseball schedule already.
That's right.
And now,
can't wait.
Mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. UCF and UConn will play their final games against each other in stores at Elliott Ballpark on the 9th, 10th, and 11th of April. Whoopity-doo. The American...
Weather may not be good there. That's not good weather up there in Connecticut in April.
Yeah, it could be. Is that the new park, or is the new park not open
That's
yet?
the new park. That's the new park, because they were playing at Dunkin' Donuts Park in in Hartford. But yeah, that's the new park that they're opening up this year. And then, by the way, the American Baseball Championship in Clearwater will be Tuesday, May 19th through Sunday, May 24th. So mark your calendars for that as well. So,
by the way, so April, I mean, that's going to be weather. We could have the same for the last time. We could have that weather issue with UConn once again, like we did a couple years ago, where it could be a little chilly in Connecticut. A couple of notes there we're going to have to follow, by the way. This is a pretty important fall, actually, in college baseball. There's a lot of discussion in October about they're going to revote, possibly, to try to get that third full-time assistant in baseball and softball, for that matter. Mm-hmm. And I've been exchanging messages. Kendall Rogers, I'm trying to get on my softball podcast to talk about that. But there's some chatter around college baseball about pushing the season back a couple of weeks, maybe starting the season in March instead of mid-February, and possibly pushing the World Series more towards the late June, maybe July time frame.
Ooh,
we don't know if that's going to happen or not down the road. I know that from what I understand, television is definitely for that. ESPN would not be opposed to that. They would love to have the College World Series even pushed more in that dead time kind of time of year in sports. But those are some of the topics, Murph, that is being talked about this offseason in college baseball, and remains to be seen what's going to come from that.
Well, certainly, like you said, the TV channels would love more live sports in July, which is one of the deadest months on the calendar, certainly. And then
go ahead, Murph. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then moving the season back, I believe, like I told you, Eric, on Twitter, your desire for that change probably depends on where you live in the country. Whereas if you're UConn, you definitely want that thing pushed back to March 1st. And if you're here in Orlando, you really don't care, because it's kind of the same weather every day between January and April. So, but look, I got no problem with that. If they want to move back, that's fine. That doesn't really hurt anybody here, and it really does help people up in the north. And again, I think moving back the World Series, moving back the whole season, as a result, would work out well for the financial and visibility and TV capability.
I have one concern that I want to get out there is usually we see these conference contracts and sort of July 1st is basically the reset, is when we hit the reset button on the collegiate athletic year. So if we're still playing college sports past July 1st, I wonder how that's going to affect certain things. Don't you think, in terms of like...
Wasn't track and field going on in July sometimes?
I don't remember.
NCAA championships and beyond that? I mean, it's pretty close to that time frame.
Because usually the College World Series is the last thing to finish out, right?
Over track?
Yeah.
Maybe. It's close. Maybe.
Let me find out.
I have a feeling they'll figure it out. If television...
What about women's... What about... I remember... Didn't women's tennis finish up after baseball, or no?
No, tennis ended before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to look at all that, but that's
if last year is any guide, UCF schedule will not be announced for baseball for another month.
By the way, a little nugget on the UConn schedule, very interesting. You know who they play UConn that week before they host UCF?
I saw it, but I forgot.
Bryant. Who's the head coach at Bryant, Murph?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Frosty. Ryan Klosterman.
Yeah, Ryan Klosterman.
That's right.
Yeah, wow.
Huh.
All
right.
What do you think? A little text messaging going on? Maybe, hopefully. Hey, phone call?
Yeah, scouting. Well, we will definitely talk about that with Greg Lovelady when the time comes. I mean,
which is going to be. It sounds like it's going to be a month from what you're telling me. Right? We got a lot to talk about.
Yes. Oh, come on. And then again, I looked it up. Fall ball probably starts in late October. Like, we're like 6 weeks away from that. We're ready to go, man.
Yeah.
Go. Between we got baseball, we got, between all the new faces, all the topics in the sport going on this offseason, and SmackDown going on Fox. I mean, there's a lot to catch up.
Lots to talk with Greg Lovelady. And for those who really enjoy UCF baseball and are aware of the program, I walked past pitcher Nolan Lepkowski a week ago, and he still is rocking the chest length beard. It's full. It's very, very prestigious beard that he's been holding on to, and he's still rocking it. So you can't miss him. I knew it was him.
Is it Brian Wilson quality? I mean,
Brian Wilson had more. Brian Wilson, I think, took more care of his beard. It's not as wild. No one's beard kind of expands outward, whereas Brian Wilson's beard really went down. This is more of a down and out. It's really an out and then down beard. It's really thick. It's a very full beard. But anyway, you can't miss him. Anyway, I'm very excited for this.
There you go. Aren't you happy, Murph, that I fed you a little baseball here? I mean, just a little appetizer,
I mean, we're running out of Major League regular season games, so I'll take anything I can get. By the way, guys, Drew Butera, so he's only played in 4 games since being called up in September. But in those 4 games, he's 4 for 11 with an OPS of 840. So, hey, he's doing okay.
It's cranking it up. So, and that's a good note for us to end on, I believe. So,
Yes, it is.
It's right on the money. So make sure you follow us at UCF_Banneret on Twitter. Follow us individually at Jeff_Sharon, Eric Lopez Elo. Brian is at Spokes_Murphy. And real quick before we go, Brian, what are you working on this week? I love the checklist articles, by the way, man.
You like that?
Love that.
All right. Well, we're going to do that again. And I'll pick 4 things that I'm watching most in this game, and then try to review that probably on Monday when I get back home. I'm leaving for Pittsburgh tomorrow, a Thursday, and I actually don't return until Monday morning. I will be able to make it to the press conference, but because I won't return until Monday morning, I probably won't get to rewatch the game until after I get back from the press conference. So I'll have that up Monday night, and then of course I'll be at the game Saturday afternoon, and then have a dispatch from that probably Sunday morning as well.
That's right. You will be there. Eric, what do you have going on this week?
Oh, you mentioned the TV article that I have up right now on the blackandgoldbanneret.com, as well as the 3 Knights Stars of the Week. That's all going to be up there on the blackandgoldbanneret.com right now. You can check all that out. Obviously, I'll be watching the game on Saturday with Pittsburgh. I'll be texting Murph during the game and asking him, how many Heinz ketchups do they actually have?
What's the spread like?
Oh yeah, I mean Heinz ketchup has to be there, right? Like, is it like kind of like all these schools that
you're going to get all 57 varieties? Let me tell you.
That's what I want to know.
I'm staying at a hotel that's right next to Permanente Brothers, so I will be partaking in some. Oh my
god,
as well.
Dude! You're all set, man.
Yeah.
Now, oh my gosh. So, all right. So we got that. We got the game on Saturday at 3:30. We will have our live blog going up there. By the way, Luke Saris has got a mailbag column coming. Jeremy Brennan will have a round table.
You guys are doing a post-game show now. We got a post-game show going on.
Now, I'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to give a shout-out to Derek Warden because he has been killing it with the photo galleries this year. And this one from the Stanford game, I think, was his best. I mean, it was cinematic. It was that great. So check out Derek's photos on blackandgoldbanneret.com. And we tried it last week, and we got such a good response. As Eric was saying, we're going to do it again. So we have this new on our YouTube channel. Just search for Black and Gold Banneret on YouTube, and we will also put it out on social media. We're doing a right after the game video post-game show. We're calling it Night Shift because usually we're just doing it at night. But last week it was myself and Jeremy Brenner, and we were answering some questions. We were breaking down the game, and we got such a good response. I want to thank everyone who logged on to that because I didn't know how it was going to go, but it ended up going very well. And what we're gonna do it again. We're gonna try and have more than just me and Jeremy. Eric, are you gonna be available for it?
I don't know. There might be some good football games I'd rather watch, but maybe I'll call in for a
really.
second.
Wow, unbelievable.
So we got a big staff here. I mean,
Look, well, we're gonna try. I want to try and get everyone on at least once. Now, Murph, I know you're gonna be busy getting post game, so it's gonna be a little bit dicey. I don't think you can probably pull yourself out of there. So Murph gets a pass, but especially with road games, we could probably have. I want to get Luke in there. Obviously, Jeremy and I were, captaining things, but it's really good. We we want to appreciate everybody for the support on that. So after the game, stick around on our Twitter account, stick around on Facebook. We'll send out the link as soon as we decide to, as soon as we get everything cleaned up and go live.
If Luke's on and Jeremy, they will analyze and compare UCF beating Pittsburgh's score to like Pittsburgh Penn State, and just come to a lot of conclusions that really don't need to be concluded. But it will be concluded.
Are you throwing shade at fellow staff members, Eric Lopez? I am shocked.
Well, no, it's just everybody that I know it's coming. Like, we're gonna do the whole scoreboard comparison, which is one of my. It just drives me, pulls my hair a little bit when I see everybody. Well, that team beat that team by that much more than the other team beat that much, because it's the same thing. No, it's not. It's
the transitive property of sports.
Oof. Oh man.
Yeah.
All
thank
right.
you. My goodness.
Well, I mean, Jeff, Eric has already told you that he does not want to be on your video YouTube thing. So I think Eric's just here to burn us all down. Burn it down.
Eric is looking down his nose
at
the hardworking people around here.
There's NXT now on Wednesday nights from Full Sail. Okay, I mean there's just a lot of stuff I got to catch.
Jeffrey, are you gonna get his tickets to NXT?
Yeah,
I certainly want to try. I'm intrigued. I want to see what it looks like. So it should be pretty exciting.
How about this? We'll come on the post game show if you get us some free NXT tickets.
There you go.
Deal. All right. Yeah. I will try my best to make that happen. And also, by the way, our Orlando 1-0 T-shirts from Breaking Tea are available right now. So if you hop onto our website, it's up there it's right up there at the top. If you really like our T-shirts, by the way, thanks to the folks at Breaking Tea for helping us out with that. Make sure you check one out, and you can order one for yourself as well. So that'll do it for us for tonight. Make sure you follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF_Banneret on Twitter, Facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret, and subscribe to this podcast and tell your friends. Leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, SB Nation's home for UCF sports, and Brian and Eric, I'm Jeff. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the Pitt game. We'll catch you next week, and we will catch you right after the game for Night Shift on our YouTube channel. We'll see you then.